guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Tanner. So today we'll be working on putting these Gretchins together. Here's the sprue for you, just straight out of the box. It's going to be like 10 of the Gretchin and then one squig herder, which we'll assemble him today, but we won't actually paint him in this video. He'll be his own separate video. So I'm just going to snip these apart since these are kind of flapping around a little bit. Make a little room there. So let's go ahead and get this guy snipped off the sprue here. I'll make all the decisions of which head I want to use, the weapons and all that. For this build I'm going to be using the staff and then also the actual squig itself. So I'm going to go ahead and get that taken care of and be right back. Alright, we're back now with all the pieces clipped off the sprue. Got the selections I decided to go for with the head, the staff, and which of the tops of the staff I wanted, as well as this little squig here. So we'll just put a little bit of this Tamiya on there, both on the inside of the head there and on the base of the body, so that that will hold and make a good tight bond. So once we get all this assembled, I will be painting this in a separate video. I just wanted to go ahead and get it assembled while I had it here, so I figured I might as well share the process for anyone who was curious, or just, you know, somebody that wanted to watch something, I don't know. So yeah, so then two of those just glue together like that. Doing a terrible job of keeping this on camera apparently, I apologize. I am still an amateur at this, so still just bear with me on a lot of the mistakes I make here. Working on doing better. Yeah, so there's the squig and there's the arm it is attached to. So I will go ahead and get the head glued on. I'll let you see the head that I chose, and then I'll go ahead and come back once I have everything assembled and show you the posing, and then we'll start on the actual Gretchin, sorry. But yeah, this is the runt herder. I believe I called it a squig herder earlier, sorry, it's a runt herder. But so yeah, so we'll be back and I'll have this all assembled then. Alrighty, got this guy all together now. I'll just set him off to the side here. Go ahead and get started on assembly of all of these little Gretchin. Several of them already have the guns or weapons of choice already as part of the body, such as the one I'm cutting off here now. So all you have to do is just pick out which head you want and glue that on. But there is, I believe, one or two that you have some options on as far as what arms, weapons, things like that. That's the thing about these smaller kits here. They typically don't have as much options, but that's okay. Got everything detached from the sprues now, so it's just a matter of taking the X-Acto knife here. You can use an X-Acto knife, you can use a file, just something to kind of clean up these edges from where you snipped them off. Even with some of the best snips, you're still going to have to go back and clean up some edges on them. Not too much trouble, just, you know, cutting off that little bit of excess plastic so everything sits flush, so you don't have any, you know, like these for instance are on the bottom of the feet, so you want to make sure that the feet are pretty much flat, or at least where they're going to be attached to the base. You don't have to, but it does help them look a lot better and kind of help them be a little more sitting correctly on a base. I know some people that will leave that little bit on and then use that to kind of raise the model up if they're going to do like sand or gravel or something on the base. But personally, I would rather have them flat, get it glued down, and then kind of build the base around it so it's almost like they're set down in it. Or even, you know, if I'm doing a gravel base or a sand base or something, I can kind of just wiggle the model a little bit so their feet sit down in it almost a little more naturally looking to me. But that's just what works best for me. And then also here, like the back of the head was connected, so I'm just going to kind of smooth that off, kind of make that look a little more right. And I know there was a few gun barrels as well that I'll have to kind of cut flush. I personally don't port gun barrels. I just think it's a little too tedious of work. I know some people do. I know some people hate that when people don't. But personally, especially on these smaller models, I don't bother with it. It's just a lot of extra hassle that I just don't think adds enough detail for a tabletop model. Obviously, if these are going to be showcase, or if I was going to be display or anything like that, then yeah, I would go through and do that detail as well. But just for on the tabletop, not too worried about that. I think they look plenty good enough as is, basically. So yeah, so I'll just finish getting these all cleaned up, and then I should be gluing and assembling after that. I think it's just the heads on these guys for the most part. Like I said, apart from one, I believe it is just the one that needs arms. The rest of them, I believe, already had their weapons attached. So I chose for the one with the arms. I chose both arms of his head holding a grenade. I thought that was kind of a funnier pose. I've always found Gretchin, especially, to be a little more comical. So I like to find the more comical poses and styles with that. Um, I don't know. The orcs are honestly probably my favorite faction in all of 40k. Just they're the comic relief, and they're just so much fun. The lore behind them is just so ridiculous and over the top, but you gotta love it. Um, yeah, so go ahead and get these cleaned up, and I will be right back with that. Alright, now that we've got all of the heads and bodies off of the sprue and cleaned up, all we gotta do now is go through and choose which head we want to go with which body. There was a selection of heads. I think there was four, maybe five. I think it was like four left on the sprue after we were done. So there were some other options as well, but I went with the ones that I liked the best, and some of the ones that had the funnier looks, like funny hats, or there was one that had like a big skull or something strapped to the top of his head. I thought that was kind of funny. Different things like that. So these guys, just glue them in, glue these two arms together, or sorry, the arms were already together because it was holding the grenade there. So just a little glue on that, put that to the body, and then give it a second to start to chemically react there. This glue actually just melts the plastic, is how it works. It's a chemical reaction that causes it to melt, and then once it dries back together, the plastic becomes pretty solid. So use it a little bit as like almost like a gap filler here, just in the arm, just to make sure that there's a good seal there, and it kind of gets a little bit of together for when I paint it. It won't be such an obvious gap there. So yeah, so I'll go ahead and get these guys glued up, and we'll be back once that's done. Alright, so here we are with the bases all ready to go. All the models are glued together. So now it's just a matter of putting a little bit of glue on the base, or on the base of the feet there. And in this case, for the squig herder, he also has on the foot of the squig, will have a little spot for it to go down. So I'll just put a little bit of this Tamiya down just to hold it to the base. It'll be taken off this base, especially for this one. I'll end up doing something on the base as well, not just leaving it as black plastic. But for now, oh, didn't stick there, so let's hold that down just a little bit longer and see what we can do there so we can make it stick a little better. Like I said, I'm just assembling this guy, and then I'm going to put him to the side. I'll do a full video of painting him at another time, but there you go. That is the runt herder with his attack squig and staff. So now we'll just grab all of these Gretchin and just a dab of the glue on the feet, stick them down onto their bases, and let them kind of harden and get stuck on so that we can get them ready to prime and paint. So I'll go ahead and let that roll for a minute here and be right back with actually all of them together and getting ready to be painted. So here we are back with all of the models are now primed, and I've got some of this lighter green that I'm going to use for these Gretchin on my wet palette here. So let's go ahead and get started and get these guys painted up. I like to start with the skin on these guys since it is the biggest portion of the entire model, and then go over basically a base coat with the skin there, the green, and then I'll go back and probably paint another layer or two just to make sure. I may not need to on this guy. The paint's a little thicker than it probably should be, but I'll probably end up thinning that out a little bit on the next one. But these guys are for the tabletop, so I'm not trying to really make them perfect. I want them to look good at a distance, not necessarily be something you pick up and look at, from 6 inches away and go, oh wow, look at all the detail. Really just something from, a foot or two away on the tabletop. They look good, they're colored, they're painted, and a few details here and there, but nothing that's crazy. Again, they're not display models, they're for playing with. So I want them to look good. I don't want them to look like crap, obviously, but at the same time, I'm not going to stress over the details. I'm not going to go in and, do edge highlighting and shadow in the recesses of every one of their little muscles or in the everything. Like, it's just, that's something you do if you're wanting the models to really look good up close, in my opinion. If you're doing it for a competition or something, obviously, yeah, you're going to go through, you're going to do all of that. But for just a tabletop, I mean, you can. If that's what you want to do, go for it. I'm not, by no means am I saying it's the wrong thing to do. Everybody's got their thing. For me, I just want the models to look good from the tabletop. I do have some models that I've spent a lot of time, like characters, for instance. I'll spend more time on a character. I'll go back in and go back over it a couple of times before it's all said and done. Like, for instance, for my leader for this army is Gazgul. And I may include a picture of him at the very end as well, just to show. But he's one of the models that I've gone back in a couple of times, and I've really put some work into making sure he looks good. But for these little guys, just the rank and file troops, they're probably not going to be on the tabletop very long anyway, so I'm not going to spend a ton of time trying to paint them up perfectly and make them look absolute perfect. But at the same time, I still want them to look good. So I will go through and paint all these guys up. I'll let you see a little bit of the process of that, and then we will come back once these guys have their base layers down, and I start working on some of the guns and the armor and all of that. And here's the final product of those Gretchin, all painted up and ready to go for the tabletop. Like I said, there's definitely more detail that could be done to them, but I'm pretty happy with this. It's a fairly quick paint job and just get them ready to play. Also, here's Gaz, as promised. This is a model I definitely took a little more time on, a little more detail. Wanted him to be not just a model to play on the tabletop, but also a model that could be put up for display. So, hope you guys enjoyed the video today. Thank you for stopping by, and I hope you have a wonderful day.